Hey everyone, welcome to Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers, where we aim to share real stories about running a successful family business, working through adversity, and pouring back into the community that keeps our door open. We're your hosts, Matt, Shelby, and Taylor, and we bring you relevant local business advice and automotive insights that are sure to change the way you look at running a business, and maybe even throw in a plug for you to do business with us.
That's really good. That's really good for sure.
So rapid fire here. Speaking of AI, what is something that AI cannot replace?
Ooh. I'll go to a vehicle. AI cannot replace walking around a vehicle that Mrs. Smith had bought from us that's really low mileage, that has a story that is worth more than book value.
Okay, so in a vehicle demonstration and a walk around, it can't replace that.
Can't replace that.
Okay, what's something AI can't replace?
I'm going to say the human factor of it, that is like the feelings that whenever a situation doesn't go as planned, it can try to pivot, but it becomes very computer generated at that point. There's certain circumstances that whenever you're dealing with a service fault or a sales fault that actually happens, that you have to sit back and think, oh, this isn't of the normal, I have to make a different decision here. That in AI, they can give you a response, but it's not going to have a meaningful response.
If I had to summarize it, AI has a very hard time living in the gray area.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You can train it for the black and the white,
Yep.
but what about the gray area?
And if you try to teach it in the gray, it will navigate through it, but it's gonna go like, okay, over here. Then you're like, no, that's wrong. I was thinking here. It's like, oh, over here, okay, and it gets lost, right?
It does get lost.
It's just basis of the X's and O's or the commas and the dots, and it's going through that. So it's like,
So I think you got to have both. You got to have
It's-
AI that can respond quicker. They never call in sick. They're always here. They're here available 24/7, so we can answer basic stuff. But then when somebody wants to go beyond that, you got to have the human interaction.
I think that's important there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Taylor, let's talk vendor fatigue.
Absolutely. So going into it there, vendor fatigue, which it definitely happened. It happened.
both
we
sides,
probably
right?
had fatigue. We probably had of going through your head was welded, just like, I don't want to hear anything else. I'm not meaning to be mean, but vendor fatigue, what is it? Where do you see that?
So it was on both sides, I'll say, from us, that you're like,
Yeah.
man, I don't want to talk to another vendor. After that while that happened, after a couple days of walking 100,000 steps and hearing the same AI pitch. But also we saw vendor fatigue on the vendor side,
Oh, yeah.
that they lost their luster. They were sitting down, kicked back
Got
on
it.
day 2, maybe into day 1, and they lost their luster of their pitch there. Or they were showing up a little bit later. So you kind of got to see, it gave you a little under the hood of how deep is this company and how really well they're committed to this. And were they just in Vegas to party and
Yeah.
then to try to sell something? Or were they really committed to their product and their customer?
I can tell you this: on the last day, there's about an hour and a half left before the Expo 4
Like
closed at
Zombieland?
5. Yeah, and Taylor and I are walking around Westworld. He's like, okay. And I'm like, no, we got to make another loop.
circling.
I didn't
Like,
even
what
know
are
what
we-
I was making a loop
what
for.
are we circling?
But I told myself, I'm like, you got to stay in the game. There may be something else. You're fatigued. Your mind's fogged. You're toast. But get back in there. And I would just make another loop.
You were
And I would-
on principle at that point. I had already released some of the other team to go do some.
Taylor released.
I said, yeah, Trey
That wasn't
was-
in the group text.
No, Trey was signed up for so many. I mean, he was signed up for meetings after the meetings that you were going to
Had to structure that little fella.
of going through. But I'll tell you why, and I loved hearing this, and we talked about this a little bit. Matt set up that he had learned from Dad of going through, and this is the only way you can efficiently and effectively go to a conference or meeting. You cannot go and say, hey, I'm going to check things out and go. It will eat your lunch.
Have to have an
You'll
agenda.
think you ran a marathon and you didn't make it a quarter mile.
You didn't
Now,
see
we
it.
did open up. It stayed very structured at first.
Yes.
The first day, there was tons of text flying on check-in. Where you going? Who'd you see?
Yes.
Because we had to keep everybody structured.
Uh-huh.
Now then towards the okay, if you've accomplished 1, 2, and 3, now go back through it
Yep.
and see what your eyes may be open. Like you found a system that we weren't even looking for.
Yeah, that's funny. So the point of just like super structured, we had a service person, and we had an office person, we had a management overall system and sales, and so we said you need to be specific to this. Seek it out. There was an app you could find it and just go this to this to this to this, and these workshops. But then somehow it would end up like, hey, did you see those robots over there? It's like, wait, what did those do? And it's like, well, this and this is like, that has nothing to do with
Clean
your
the
department.
floor.
Get out of there. But you want to talk about vendor fatigue. So I was in Westworld, which is the lesser size, just
Newer
a smaller
vendors.
size vendors that aren't
Startup vendors.
Yeah, startup vendors, and there was a bunch of them, and they were aggressive, and I love it.
I do too.
But I was at the end of one of the rows, and I was on my phone trying to find a vendor. You know, on the app, I could search it, and I couldn't find it. So I was at the very end, you know, and you get pretty used to, like, blocking people out. And this lady was like, hey, can I tell you about AI? And I was like, no. And so I kept going through it. She's like, golly. I was like, my bad. I didn't mean to be rude. I was like, it's day 3, and I've gone through a lot. She's like, hey, do you have a whole lot of data and spreadsheets that you guys put in a system? I was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, you've got 30 seconds. She's like, okay, very good. And so it is an AI-style platform that the coolest thing is it screen records you doing these processes. So you load this report out of this system, you pull this out of this system. And so we have a bunch of spreadsheets that allow us to manage what's currently going on, this heavy data input that we're silly enough that we don't have assistants that are helping us do that. And so she was like, well, you can do this, and it's unlimited amount of automations that you do. It's like, okay, I'm done. Let me, like, not like I'm done, sign me up. Like, that was the end of your 30 seconds. I kind of like it. Let me get your card. I'll follow up with you.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't need to hear any more there. And so then yesterday set up a call. So we were back fresh. Feet didn't hurt quite as much. Sitting in a chair where you could take some notes. And so then we really got to ask some of the hard questions there. So it is in the fourth quarter of that. Like, there's still one to be found, right?
And that's why I
was
headed
not
back
looking
down the
for that
aisle.
person.
I was like, there might be something we missed, Taylor. We got to make another circle here.
The cool thing about these conventions is that they have, you know, you think about when's the best time to buy a car. You know, you might be at truck month, might be end of the year when a big sale's happening. Most people, now whether it be a Target style market up so they can mark it down so you feel good about it, they have big sales out there.
They do.
Right? So you're able to find, if you do find a vendor or a product or a system, then you're able to reduce some cost or waive some startup fees, and you've got the people there to negotiate with. So you can negotiate all you want, as we did, but just don't sign the contract till you get home and just ask your team, hey, do we have something that already does this? And they're like,
you let them
yeah.
keep stewing, and guess what? They get hungrier and hungrier
The
every
price
day.
gets a little
I
better
die
and a
laughing
little
at one guy
better.
that I'm pretty hot to trot on, but no, I need to let it sit. And every single day, it's continued to get more and more. He's like, hey, what if I did this? Hey, what if I did this? So know that. Be reserved. And it's okay, like Shelby said, to either be intrigued a little bit and get some information and recircle back around. But just don't get sticker shock to where you're just dying into it. It is on Do Not Disturb.
I knew it. Charles Russo, it's not on Do Not Disturb. Russo, get to work, son.
Hey, I'll say, and this was really from a previous segment, but I'll bring it up here. One of the checks and balances that you need to do is make sure your team has buy-in.
Yeah.
So if people are using it, like if we went as the three brothers and we just decided on a DMS, came back and said, hey, we found the perfect DMS, they're coming in the next couple weeks to implement it. Well, we've got 270 users on it. And if you don't get buy-in from your team, it's like everything else we talked about on this podcast. And systems are the same way. You need buy-in.
Yeah.
So our DMSs, we narrowed it down to 2 DMSs that are possibilities. So we did the heavy lifting of will they actually work?
Yes.
Then we're going to bring them in, and all department managers are going to be in there. We need their buy-in. So when it comes time to install and their employees are moaning and groaning about learning new software, they're our catalyst that say, no, we vetted them all. This is really good. It's going to enhance. You guys need to jump on board.
Yes.
That is so important that 99% of people miss. If you get caught up in, no, I have the ability, I can make this decision, I'm just going to do it, you're going to miss out in the buy-in factor of they feel like they're a part of it. Like, yes, you should make that decision, but that's something we've learned along the way from the basic and simple thing. It's no different than if I make a decision and don't include you guys and something goes wrong, you guys are looking directly at me and it's like, Shelby, where'd you come up with these people? You know? And so the way that you can kind of check it out is like, hey, I found this company. Will you guys just put your eyes on it real quick and see? And so you guys might ask different questions, and you're like,
All right,
looks
to go.
good, looks good. And so when something goes wrong, we're together trying to figure it out instead of like, I don't know, Shelby signed up for this system and everyone's just mad about it because it doesn't work. Because reality check, something's going to go wrong,
Oh, it's not gonna be perfect.
right? So you need some more leaders in that to say, no, this is our system. It is good. We're just working the bugs out.
That was really big. And I love, Matt actually yesterday hit in a, just to hammer this home, hit in an email going back to a vendor that he loved a system. He was 110% on board for this system. He wanted to go ahead and sign the people up. And we got him in a manager meeting and they blew it. Blew it terrible. And even though he didn't want to, he didn't have internal buy-in from employees. And so we didn't go with that system.
We didn't go with them.
We didn't go. So it's almost more important than actually the system, you liking and everything else, because buy-in from internally, if they're working harder, can outweigh some of the bugs and glitches of a system. Whenever it doesn't necessarily perform as good as something else, but you have better buy-in, that's good to look at.
I would agree.
One of the cool things, one of the last things we'll talk about in NADA is being able to see all these things. And it allows you to see into the future a little bit of if you don't adapt, someone else out there is going to. And so all these systems, and so for years it's been talking about how to do kind of direct to consumer, but without coming to the store. So then how those things adapt. So there was tons of podcasts that were popping up and people were having discussions. And so it was, this person from this side of the industry and this person from this side of the industry talking about, hey, how to stay relevant for Gen Z, for the shoppers and what that looks like. And so in those workshops, and they were talking about, hey, how to make your mobile service department the most relevant. And here's how you schedule it and here's where you go. And so you're able to learn years worth of stuff and research just by going and being around it and just taking notes and implementing and come back. Some of the training and the things that you see allows you to be able to bring back and add some spark back into your team of like, hey, here's where the industry is going. Here's where we're going to go and our take on it. And it allows you to stay relevant, that you're not in your same circle and your same, we talk about where the average of the 5 people were around. Well, we had to get around some big heavy hitters that have big ideas.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's like, whew, okay, all right. So that's where we were able to find some of those connections. And I've had text messages since then. It was like, hey, love that we got to meet up. Hey, here's this connection. Here's this connection. It's like, okay, let's go somewhere with that. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
So that's a good thing there. All right, frequently asked question, then we'll wrap this thing up. If there was one thing you could bring back from NADA, whether it was something you learned, whether it was a system, a software, something you see you should never do, what do you think that would be?
My encouragement to the team is to slow down and look at the customer record. Now, right now, that's to have the salesperson or the service advisor live in multiple different systems, but to collect all the information before you proceed forward with writing the customer up in service or with that sales transaction. Because customers are taking the time to have conversations online, to fill out information, and the last thing you want to do is ignore that.
Mm-hmm. I really like that, and it kind of transitions over into, I saw a whole big void in our CRM, our customer management tool, that the lack of use of even some of the current systems we have that would be much better with the different ones we were looking at there, but just fully utilizing the system and really diving into it, not saying, no, necessarily doesn't have it or turned a blind eye to say, I didn't really dive into that, but fully utilizing the systems that we currently have. It's always a great reminder to, hey, squeeze it a little bit harder. There's more in there.
Yeah, so one of the things that I saw that I was talking about in our meeting this morning, but your digital footprint. And so you could have the greatest culture within our store, which I would put our culture against anyone, right? And you could have the best transactional process, but does your digital footprint show that? Now, none of us are TikTok influencers, let alone YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, whatever all the stuff is, But that's where the people are. And then that feeds to your website, because that's where they collect more data, right? They get influenced in those channels. Then they end up on your website to then figure out, is this the place, right? And so does your feeling of your social, hopefully it's there, and how do you build that to feel like your culture internally? And then does that transact to your website? Because in one of the seminars, they talked about that, of how that needs to be your feeling across all platforms. It needs to be the same. It doesn't be like, oh, that's wild and crazy over here on X, and then you get over here on Facebook and it's completely different, and then you get on your website and it's like hold music.
The message has to be consistent.
Has to be consistent. And one of the biggest things was, and I'm not saying people are going to buy all their cars online. The fact is, it proved the other way. But did it allow them to start and be super clear and transparent in all your pricing? I'm not just talking about cars, like forget cars for something. Your service pricing is your service menu pricing online, and how to transact through parts and maybe finance, so being a maintenance plan at half price or those things. So does your digital footprint look like what your store does?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about blocks and pieces. I'm talking about that transactional style thing. And does it have that feel of the warm and fuzzy and what your culture looks like? So I took a bunch of notes on that.
That's good.
You know, like our service scheduling, we talk about all the time that no appointment needed. And in our service meetings every single week, we talk about hours left unsold. Yet in one of the workshops, I tried to schedule an oil change for our own dealership online, and it was 12 days out.
Mm-hmm.
And so as soon as I got on that, I was like, why isn't this opened up more? This side, we're complaining that we don't have enough and the hours go unsold. And this side, we're saying, no. And there was good intentions of trying to manage expectations. But to get that footprint to feel like it is, I think is a big takeaway that we'll definitely work on there.
Okay.
Hey, another great episode 75 today, where we got to talk systems, conventions, and then ones to bring on, ones to let go, and hopefully some tips that'll help you guys. As always, go check out our inventory on lewissuperstore.com and get this episode and then many more at crossroadconversationspodcast.com.
Hey, thanks for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to give it a like, share it with your friends and family. Visit our website and send us some questions. We want to know what you'd like to hear, who you'd like to hear from, and what you want to see. Or maybe even some questions for us to answer about either the automotive industry or just business in general.